The first thing I did when getting the FSD 14.3 update was take it to all the places in my local area that I know it struggles with. And well, it's kind of a mixed bag. There's some good things and honestly more bad things than I initially expected, which we're going to get into, but one thing that I can say for sure is that its reaction time has far surpassed us mere mortals. If you have no idea why it stomped on the brakes there, you're not alone. When I posted this clip on X, the majority of people had no idea. It turns out it was because this car had started pulling out from their spot without looking before giving FSD a thumbs up for reacting so quickly. If you look closely, you can see the path planner reacting to the situation before the visualization shows the car moving at all. Absolute insane reaction time. I'll use this clip to calculate just how fast it is. We have a right turn coming up, and when the light changes to yellow, the path planner reacts because it knows it's going to have to stop at the light. Not only is the path planner again reacting before the visualization even displays the yellow light, but I went frame by frame and clocked a reaction time of just 0.2 of a second from the moment the light hits yellow to when the car starts controlling for it. For context, 1.5 seconds is the industry standard reaction time used in accident reconstructions, and that covers the entire window from detecting an unexpected threat to physically applying the brakes. Even for an alert, above average driver who can react in a single second, FSD is still 5 to 7 times quicker. And here's the real world impact of that difference.
Wow.
Near instantaneous reactions. The release notes say this was accomplished by rewriting the AI compiler and runtime from the ground up, and they claim a 20% improvement to reaction time, and honestly, that feels like an understatement. It feels more like 50% to me, and that's really saying something because those of you who use version 14.2 know that its reaction times are already pretty impressive, but 14.3 is on an entirely different level, and it really is something that you can feel while using it. And while this is hugely impressive, I mean, I really never thought we'd see reaction times like these from a little computer behind the glove box running off 150 watts of power. Rewriting things from the ground up has had some consequences. The main one that I noticed is that some of the indecisive, jerky behaviors from really early versions of 14 is back. Look at the twitchiness of the steering wheel and the path planner here being split between two decisions. I would say this is a fairly straightforward, unprotected left. The truck in front of us has his turn signal on. It's clear he's not moving into the intersection. This is not something that 14.2 would have ever struggled with. And I believe this is a direct result of just how fast 14.3 can go from decision to control output. Here we are approaching a flashing crosswalk, but without any pedestrians around, and I can feel the car being torn between continuing or stopping. It really feels like it's considering many, many things simultaneously. Like, oh, the lights are flashing, but there's no pedestrians in the crosswalk. What am I missing? The lights are flashing, but there's no pedestrians, and it's something you can really feel when you're inside the car. The good news is, even though it hesitates a lot more than 14.2, so far in my experience, it has never chosen incorrectly and braked hard when it didn't need to. It just feels like it thinks about it sometimes. And while 14.3 may need another layer of polish to bring back the levels of smoothness of before, I think the real magic here is this new AI compiler built with MLIR. I think this is actually where Elon's comment of 14.3 being the last big piece of the puzzle comes from. Not that this update completes the puzzle, especially with some of the clips we're going to get to. I'll definitely show you the puzzle still needs building, but this being a new base that they can work from that not only gives the car absolute instantaneous response times, but also makes it easier for them to iterate and get updates out more quickly. Many people focused on that 20% faster reaction time in the release notes, but missed that very next point about them being able to iterate on the models much faster than before. I think that this transition could be the pulling the band-aid off moment, where there may be a few regressions, but it allows a huge acceleration in progress and will probably be the base for the next several generations of FSD, including version 15 and beyond. I mean, you never know with AI stuff lately. Things are honestly insane, but at the very least, we should expect updates coming out much more frequently than this slow burn cycle we've seemed to be stuck in lately. The last thing I want to mention before we dive deeper into 14 14.3 changes is a psychological shift I've had lately, especially since the release of version 14 in general. We finally crossed the point where it's basically factual that driving with FSD is significantly safer than driving yourself, and I feel like it's important to call that out. I consider myself an above average driver, just like the average person does, but I've reached a stage where I actually feel exposed when driving manually. It's just simply impossible for me to match the car's reaction time now, and I can't look in every direction at once, and the car can. While filming this drive, I saw a very near miss with a pedestrian on a bicycle who was texting and not paying attention and was nearly ran over by somebody who was not expecting her to be in the intersection. Regardless of who's at fault here, it's a perfect example of the biological limits that we all have. We can only look in one direction at a time and don't react quickly to things we aren't expecting. FSD never gets distracted by a phone, never drives tired, it doesn't even blink for that matter, and the more people that use it, the safer our roads are going to be for everybody. Anyways, sorry for the rant there. We're going to dive much deeper into 14.3, including exploring some of its new reasoning capabilities right after I tell you about this video's sponsor, Delete Me. You guys know I am all about stress testing and pushing the boundaries, but one thing you don't want to stress test is your privacy. I've been using Delete Me since November of 2024 and have gotten to witness my data being removed from hundreds of websites. My latest report showing my data has been completely deleted from even the most pesky of data brokers. In case you didn't know, data brokers are websites that collect and store as much personal information as they possibly can about you and then sell it to the highest bidder, which often includes bad actors. Removing your data from these sites decreases the risk of identity theft, phishing, scams, and even good old-fashioned robocalls. It's a pretty huge relief knowing that even as these new data broker websites pop up, I've already got experts filing out the opt-out forms for me. Using my link in the description or the QR code on the screen gets you 20% off all their consumer plans, which is a pretty great deal and a very small price to pay for privacy. A big thanks to Delete Me for sponsoring this video, and back to FSD. So beyond the occasional slight hesitation that we talked about earlier, there are quite a few what I would consider pretty major improvements in this update. I know many people that complained about how closely version 14.2 would follow cars occasionally, and that has basically been fixed, as you can see here even in Mad Max mode. It also seems to get over much earlier for upcoming turns and exits, which was a personal pet peeve of mine. And it also seems to be able to predict situations unfolding better than ever before, and better than most humans. Like here where it clearly sees traffic ahead coming to a stop in front of the car in front of us, slowing down before they do. Little hard to make out, but it's actually visualizing those cars in front of the car in front of us as well. Pretty impressive how far it's able to see that. And while in my experience, Mad Max usually waits till the last second to get over, you can see it's starting to get over way earlier now. Also changing lanes basically in unison with the car next to us, keeping everything smooth, which is another area you see that enhanced reaction time show up. There's also some changes that I'm not necessarily a fan of, like how it deals with yellow lights. What you're about to see is probably the shortest green light in history. And while I know for an absolute fact that 14.2 would have just rolled through this, as would have I, 14.3 seems to be much more conservative, which often ends up costing a lot of time. I get that this is a hard problem to solve and you're never going to be able to make everybody happy, but I probably will be overriding the accelerator pedal in these situations a lot more than I was on 14.2. Another change that was specifically mentioned in the release notes is an increased ability to read signs, but to be honest with you, I'm not really seeing it. There is a temporary no right turn on red sign that is lit up, and when that thing's lit up, you are not supposed to turn right on red at this light, but it doesn't seem to notice or care about it, even though that should be a pretty standard sign. I do go ahead and let it do this because it was safe and did go ahead and report it so they can use this for training. So I thought, okay, maybe this sign reading is part of the reasoning that has only been applied to the ends of destinations, because that's specifically what it says in the release note. It lists expanded reasoning to all behaviors beyond destination handling as an upcoming improvement. So I figured at the very least there'd be some expanded reasoning at destinations and maybe you'd be able to read signs there. But so far I haven't really seen that either. either. The good news is I've probably been to about 30 destinations now and it hasn't parked in a single handicap spot, so that's an improvement, but there's nothing but no parking signs to our right-hand side. But again, doesn't really seem to care about those signs or notice them at all and just parks behind another car who is improperly parked here. Still very monkey see, monkey do. And don't get me wrong, there definitely is some noticeable differences in the way that it handles getting to its destination, but it's not really better. It's more of a different kind of a problem. One of the first things I did when I saw the expanded reasoning at destinations was say, great, I know all kinds of areas where the maps are wrong. Like this park that's off to our left, the maps always have us going into this parking lot to the right. And unfortunately, 14.3 is making the same mistake as 14.2 here and heads into this parking lot. The difference is 14.2 used to actually park here and say, okay, I'm done, we're at the park, even though it was across the street. But 14.3 actually circles the entire parking lot and seems to realize that we're not at our final destination yet, actually crosses the street and gets itself all the way into the park. And at this point, I'm like, yes, finally, we're actually starting to see some of those improvements that I noticed in RoboTaxi, where it's not just blindly following the navigation route and actually heading to the pin instead. But unfortunately, that is not the case. You can see the pin behind us now, and it just blindly following the navigation route, which just keeps updating. So I'm not sure if I'm just missing the enhanced reasoning here, but I am a little sad to report that some of the enhanced logic that I saw in RoboTaxi has not made it here yet. Just want to briefly bring your attention to the path planner, which seems to be updating way faster than it ever has before. And yes, I did give it one more chance to try to fix its mistake. I know there was a situation with RoboTaxi where I thought it might get caught in an infinite loop and it ended up fixing itself, but unfortunately it does the exact same thing again and never corrects itself. And here's another example of a very similar situation, because honestly they aren't that hard to find. I have it navigating to the college here and you can see the navigation route just kind of ends. And while 14.2 would actually go and try to find parking nearby, even if that was in the wrong area, 14.3 just kind of blindly follows its navigation route and ends up never parking, especially if there's no P icon on the map. You can see the navigation route ending multiple times and it just creating new ones and kind of going around in circles. So definitely a new behavior compared to 14.2, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's a good one, and we're definitely still missing those key RoboTaxi features. I did have a couple of instances of it ignoring the navigation route when it didn't make sense. You can see instead of turning right at the stoplight up here, it actually just turns right into this parking lot because it noticed an entrance, but I've seen earlier versions of 14 do this as well. There's also that new P icon, which seems to be there sometimes and other times not. Not really sure what triggers that to show up or not show up, but what I will say is whenever that icon does show up, it always finds a parking spot and doesn't get caught in a loop. I have some other examples as well where it even goes around the block and finds some street parking even though the navigation was telling it to do something else. So maybe the enhanced reasoning at destination is only there when that P icon shows up. I really don't know. I probably need a little bit more testing to really figure that out. And as we leave this parking lot, we can exit going the same way we come in, and I was hoping that it was going to do that, and there were certain times where it really seemed like it wanted to. Look at that path planner. It's like it really wants to, but ends up just following the navigation route instead. And here's another example of a time I was able to get that mysterious P icon to show up, and you can see some of the behaviors here. It doesn't seem to attempt to park near the P icon itself. When reading the release notes, I figured it was going to be something that we could kind of select and tell the car like where we actually wanted it to park, but that does not seem to be the case. You can see the car hunting for a parking spot down this row of cars and then discovering that it's completely full and having to back out. I have actually never had it park at the actual P. Like, it doesn't seem like it's even attempting to get there. I wish I had more answers for you guys about what these things do, but I have kind of more questions after using it. I think it's going to take me a bit more time of using this and kind of analyzing its behaviors when the icon shows up and when it doesn't to fully understand what it's trying to do. Because although it is a lot better with parking and more precise in this update, it doesn't really feel like the next level like we were all kind of expecting. It kind of just feels like a new method of doing things. Hopefully that makes sense. And if there's any specific scenario that you guys want to see tested, just please let me know down in the comments because I do read them all. I'll be heading back to California shortly where I should be able to stress test this a little more and understand it at a bit deeper of a level than I do currently. But all in all, the thing that this update struggles with the absolute most is the same thing that earlier versions of version 14 struggled with the most, and that is navigation. There's a U-turn planned in the navigation route ahead, and when it sees that the road is blocked, it actually reroutes, but it uses the same road, which is obviously closed, which of course puts it on another infinite loop when it can't turn down the road and then reroutes using the exact same navigation path as before. And this is the type of stuff I really hoped we were going to see improvements with 14.3. I've also noticed more regressions than just the hesitancy with this version, which, you know, is kind of expected when there's any major change like this, but I have to call them out when I see them. We're supposed to be turning left at the light ahead, and even though there's ground markings that clearly show which lanes belong to who and which arrows, there's even a person in front of us who made a same mistake, 14.3 stays in the straight only lane. And I've actually been through this intersection many times on 14.2, and a lot of times it'll get into the incorrect lane, but it'll immediately fix itself. But 14.3 doesn't seem like it tries to fix itself, even when it seems to know it's in the wrong lane. I did let this go to see if it would just continue straight, but the guy next to us actually sees the turn signal on and attempts to let us in, but I am just not gonna let the car do that. I'd rather disengage and let Tesla get this data so that they can fix it in future versions, because like I said, I think version 14.2 handled situations like this much better, and I really hope that these things get fixed really quickly with the next few dot updates. But to be fair, that was the only intervention I had in the entire day through hours of trying to stress test this new version. It's still the same version 14 that we know and love that does the right thing the majority of the time. It's just that FSD is so good now that when new releases come out, I kind of expect more out of it. I think I might have just overhyped myself for 14.3 a little bit. I think the major thing here, like I said earlier in the video, is that this is a major change to the underlying way that the system works. And seeing how fast it responds to things and how fast the path planner moves back and forth gives me really high hopes that hardware 4 isn't near its limits and that this technology can be used to make hardware 3 even better as well. And of course I have to show you the parking garage clip because I always have to go to a parking garage when stress testing, and situations like this are things that I thought we wouldn't be seeing the car do for a very long time. And it's really good at it. You can see the guy in front of us has to open up his door to have enough room to actually reach the ticket booth in front of us, and full self-driving actually pulls closer so that I don't have to open my door. It's actually doing a better job than the human in front of us did. And yes, I still have to kind of lean myself out of the window. There's no avoiding that, but just the fact that it can do these things at all is seriously impressive. I think what we really need from full self-driving is a way to interact with it more than just putting pins on a navigation route. I was really hoping that we could use Grok to interact with the car a little bit more, just to be able to ask it questions like, hey, why are you skipping all of these open parking spots in the parking garage right now? Like, what are you looking for? And something like that was demoed in one of Tesla's presentations where they were interacting with the FSD driving model through text prompts. And honestly, that's the kind of stuff that I expected to be in 14.3. I think I might have hyped it up a little bit too much in my head. Again, not trying to take away from the impressiveness of this driving model. I mean, just look how it's getting closer to this ticket booth on purpose because it knows exactly what we have to do already. Like, it's insanely impressive, but it's been insanely impressive for quite a while now. And I was really hoping to see some of the RoboTaxi specific features that I witnessed in Austin show up on my car. And so far, I don't think that's happened. But 14.3 being a ground-up change to the way FSD works does give me hope that we're going to see a lot more improvements very quickly. At least, I hope so. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to let me know what you think in the comments. Until next time, everybody. Bye.